The arterial pathway terminated in a vast chamber lined with neural tissue that pulsed with cascading electrical patterns. At the chamber center stood a structure that defied architectural classification. Part building, part organism. Its walls composed of crystallized thought made manifest. "That's it," Dr. Vance whispered. "The Leviathan's primary consciousness center. The creature's entire identity originates from that structure." Chief Kim's sensors painted a detailed picture of their target. Heavy shielding, both technological and biological. Energy readings suggest massive computer cores integrated with living neural networks. Any sign of Malthus? Multiple high-energy compartments. But there's something else. Massive data flows between the Citadel and various points throughout the creature. Someone is accessing the Leviathan's core memories. Janice felt a chill of recognition. During their joint campaigns, Malthus had shown an almost supernatural ability to predict enemy movements. She had attributed it to tactical genius, but now she wondered if he had been using Imperial xenopsychology techniques to manipulate alien minds. "He's not just hiding here," she realized. "He's trying to control it." "Sir," Blackwood reported urgently, "I'm detecting massive movement throughout the creature. Neural activity is spiking across all sectors." The chamber around them began to change. Bioluminescent patterns shifted from gentle pulses to aggressive strobing, while the neural walls contracted rhythmically like a massive heart. "The Leviathan is in distress," Dr. Vance observed. "Something is causing it significant pain. Or someone," Janice corrected. "Malthus is trying to rewrite its core programming. If he succeeds, a creature this powerful under Dark World control could destroy entire Imperial sectors." Thorne finished over the comm link. Janice made her decision. "We're going in. Kim, can you dock with that structure? There are biological airlocks along the base. I can interface with their systems, but once we're inside, we'll be completely cut off from the ship." "Understood. Hawkins, Tanaka, you're with me." The rest of the team maintains overwatch and prepares for emergency extraction. The docking process felt like being consumed by a living entity. Organic airlocks engulfed their boarding pod, while biological scanners probed every molecule of their equipment. For a terrifying moment, Janice thought they would be dissolved by the structure's defenses. Then the scanning stopped, and they found themselves in a corridor that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The walls displayed moving images of distant galaxies, while floor beneath their feet felt solid but looked transparent. Psychoactive architecture. Dr. Vance had warned them. The structure interfaces directly with the visitor's nervous system. Try to maintain focus on objective reality. Easier said than done. As they moved deeper into Citadel, Janice began to experience flashes of alien memory, visions of star birth and cosmic destruction, the joy of creatures that swam through solar winds, the loneliness of intelligence vast beyond comprehension. "Contact," Hawkins reported, raising his weapon. Ahead of them, figures materialized from the shifting walls. Dark World operatives whose bodies had been so extensively modified they barely retained humanoid shape. Their leader was a tall, skeletal figure whose head had been replaced with a cluster of crystalline sensors. "Imperial insects," the creature hissed through a translator device. "You contaminate the sacred space with your presence." "We're here for Malthus," Janice replied. "Surrender him, and we'll leave peacefully. The cardinal has transcended your primitive limitations. He communes now with entities beyond your understanding." The battle erupted in the confined space of the corridor. Hawkins's augmented reflexes allowed him to dodge attacks that existed in multiple dimensions, while his return fire seemed to bend through space before striking targets. Tanaka's electronic warfare suite provided crucial support, disrupting the enemy's exotic weapons and communication systems. But the Dark World soldiers fought with desperate fury, as if defending something sacred. As they fought their way deeper into the Citadel, the visions grew stronger. Janice began to see through the Leviathan's memories. Its birth in the cosmic void, its consumption of stellar matter, its evolution from simple creature to transcendent intelligence. And she saw Malthus. The cardinal stood in the structure's heart, his body connected to Leviathan's neural network by threads of living light. His human features had taken on an alien cast, while his eyes blazed with cosmic awareness. "Janice," he said without turning around. "I've been expecting you." "Cardinal," she replied, keeping her weapon trained on him. "By order of the Imperial High Council, you are under arrest for treason and collaboration with enemy forces." Malthus laughed, the sound echoing through dimensions she couldn't perceive. "Arrest? My dear Captain, I am no longer bound by such primitive concepts. I have touched the mind of something truly magnificent." Around them, the Citadel's walls displayed images of imperial space, not as it was, but as it could be. Cities floating free in the void, their inhabitants no longer confined to planetary surfaces. Ships that were living creatures rather than mere machines. A civilization that had transcended the limitations of individual existence. "This is what the Dark World offers," Malthus continued. "Not conquest, but evolution. The Empire clings to outdated concepts of nationalism and species purity, while entities like a Leviathan show us what we could become." "You've been deceived," Janice insisted. "The Dark World seeks only the Empire's destruction." Destruction, yes, but destruction of limitation, of fear, of the barriers that prevent us from achieving our true potential. Malthus turned to face her, and she saw that his transformation was almost complete. "Join me, Janice. Let me show you what lies beyond the boundaries of human experience." For a moment, she felt the temptation. The visions the Citadel projected were beautiful, seductive in their promise of transcendence. But beneath the beauty, she sensed something else, a hunger that devoured individuality, a collective consciousness that brooked no dissent. "I've seen what the Dark World creates," she replied. "Slavery disguised as evolution. I'll complete my mission." "Then you'll die," Malthus said sadly. "The Leviathan will not allow you to harm me. I am part of it now." The Citadel shuddered as the creature's consciousness focused on the intruders. Neural pathways that had carried gentle thought now blazed with hostile intent, while the structure's defenses awakened with predatory intelligence. But Janice had one advantage her former friend had overlooked. Her mission parameters included not just elimination, but prevention of intelligence compromise, and she carried the means to accomplish both objectives. "Tanaka," she called out, "activate the quantum virus." "Sir." "Do it. Upload the virus to the neural network." The communication specialist's hands hesitated over her equipment. "Captain, that virus was designed to crash Imperial computer systems in case of capture. If I upload it to Leviathan's neural network, it will lobotomize one of the galaxy's most intelligent creatures," Malthus finished, his expression horrified. "Janice, you can't. The knowledge this entity possesses is beyond price. Knowledge that will be used to destroy everything I've sworn to protect." Janice's finger tightened on her weapon's trigger. "I'm sorry, old friend, but the Empire comes first." The quantum virus propagated through Leviathan's neural pathways like a plague of digital fire. The creature's agonized cries echoed through dimensions, its pain so intense that reality itself seemed to fracture around them. Malthus screamed as his connection to the creature's mind was severed, his enhanced consciousness collapsing back into merely human limitations. But the damage was done. The Leviathan's higher brain functions were failing, its transcendent intelligence fragmenting into animal instinct. "You've killed it," he whispered. "A mind older than your empire, wiser than your civilization, and you've murdered it." "I protected my people," Janice replied, though she felt sick at what she had done. "That's what soldiers do." As the Leviathan's consciousness collapsed, its body began to convulse. The citadel around them started to dissolve, its psychoactive architecture failing as the creature's neural network crashed. "We need to go," Hawkins reported. "This entire structure is becoming unstable." They fought their way back through corridors that no longer knew which dimension they belonged in, while the citadel collapsed around them. Malthus came willingly now, his spirit broken by the destruction of the entity he had tried to merge with. But as they reached their boarding pod, Janice realized their problems were just beginning. The Leviathan's body might be dying, but its immune system was still active, and it now perceived everything within its body as a threat to be eliminated. The hunt had become a race for survival. The shadow's edge bucked and rolled as massive convulsions shook the Leviathan's body. Around them, The arterial walls began to collapse as the creature's biological systems shut down one by one. Neural activity is fragmenting across all sectors, Dr. Vance reported. The creature is experiencing massive system failure. Its higher brain functions are gone. How long until complete biological collapse? Janice asked as she secured Malthius in the ship's holding cell. At current rate of deterioration, perhaps 30 minutes. But the immune system is still partially active, and it's treating everything as hostile. As if summoned by her words, massive shapes move through the arterial passages around them. Antibodies the size of warships converge on their position, their forms writhing with predatory hunger. Multiple contacts, Thorne announced. At least 2 dozen pursuing entities. They're not responding to our bioelectric camouflage. The virus corrupted the recognition protocols, Chief Kim explained. The Leviathan can no longer distinguish between friend and foe. Janice took her position at the helm. Emergency speed. Find us the fastest route to open space. Blackwood's hands flew over his navigation console. Problem, Captain. The creature's death throes are destabilizing local space-time. I'm reading multiple dimensional fractures throughout the circulatory system. Explain. The Leviathan's body exists partially in hyperspace. As it dies, those dimensional anchors are failing. We could end up trapped in a collapsing pocket dimension. The ship shuddered as something massive impacted the arterial wall nearby. Through the hull cameras, they caught a glimpse of their pursuer, a creature that defied sanity, its form shifting between dimensions as it sought to destroy the perceived infection. That's not an antibody, Dr. Vance breathed. That's a white blood cell the size of a space station. Can we fight it? Our weapons would be like a virus trying to fight a human immune system. Hawkins replied grimly. We need to find another way. Chief Kim looked up from her console. I might have something. The creature's lymphatic system runs parallel to the circulatory system. If I can open a connection. Do it. Kim's cybernetic implants blaze as she interfaced with the Leviathan's failing neural network. There, opening a passage now. A sphincter-like portal dilated in the arterial wall, revealing a smaller tunnel lined with different tissue. The shadow's edge squeezed through just as the massive white blood cell reached their previous position. This should buy us some time, Kim reported. The lymphatic system is primarily for waste removal. Lower traffic, fewer defenses. But their relief was short-lived. As they traveled to the new passage, Tanaka's scanners detected something troubling. Captain, I'm picking up massive energy buildups throughout the creature's body. It looks like... Her words were cut off as the Leviathan's death scream echoed through every dimension. The sound was more than audio. It was pure anguish made manifest, the final cry of mind that had touched the cosmos. Dimensional cascade failure, Blackwood reported as space-time twisted around them. The creature's collapse is creating a gravitational anomaly. If we don't escape soon, we'll be crushed along with everything else in this sector. Time to exit? 6 minutes at current speed. But the dimensional distortions are getting worse. Janice made a command decision. All power to engines. Dump everything non-essential. Life support reserves, weapon systems, even the phase cloak. Captain, Thorne protested, without the cloak, every Dark World ship in the sector will detect us. They'll have to survive the Leviathan's death first. The ship's acceleration pressed them into their seats as the shadow's edge raced through failing biological systems. Behind them, the creature's body was literally tearing itself apart as dimensional anchors collapsed. External visual, Janice ordered. The main screen showed a sight that would haunt her dreams forever. The Leviathan's massive bulk was fracturing along dimensional lines, pieces of its body disappearing into folded space-time. The creature's bioluminescent patterns flickered erratically, like the dying thoughts of a cosmic god. And around the collapsing entity, dozens of Dark World ships were caught in the gravitational chaos. Some tried to flee, while others fired desperately at the anomaly as if weapons could somehow stop the inevitable. Exit portal ahead, Kim announced. But it's contracting. We'll have maybe 30 seconds before it seals completely. Emergency power to engines, Janice ordered. The Shadow's edge shot forward like a bullet, its hull groaning under the stress of maximum acceleration. The portal ahead grew larger, but they could see it beginning to close as the Leviathan's death spasms disrupted its own biological architecture. "We're not going to make it," Blackwood reported. "Yes, we are." Janice pushed the ship's systems beyond their design limits. Warning lights flashed across every console as components overloaded, but the ship continued to accelerate. They shot through the contracting portal with seconds to spare, emerging into open space just as the Leviathan's body imploded into a dimensional singularity. The gravitational shockwave sent them tumbling through space, but they were alive. "Damage report," Janice called out. "Engines at 40% capacity," Thorne replied. "Multiple system failures throughout the ship, but we're space-worthy. And our prisoner? Secure in the holding cell. The containment field held during the escape." Janice allowed herself a moment of relief. They had completed their mission. Malthius was captured, and his knowledge of Imperial secrets could no longer aid the Dark World. But the cost? "The Leviathan is gone," Dr. Vance reported quietly. "One of the most magnificent intelligences in the galaxy, reduced to a gravitational anomaly." Janice knew the doctor was right to mourn. She had killed something beautiful and ancient, something that might have become an ally rather than an enemy. But duty had demanded sacrifice, as it always did. "Set course for Imperial space," she ordered. "Best possible speed." As the Shadow's edge limped away from the expanding gravity well that had once been a Leviathan, Janice wondered if the price of victory was becoming too high. Each mission required her to sacrifice a piece of her humanity on the altar of Imperial security. But that was tomorrow's concern. Today, she had saved the Empire from its most dangerous traitor. The mission was complete. The Imperial Tribunal chamber aboard the Dreadnought Sovereigns was a study in austere magnificence. Marble columns reached toward a vaulted ceiling decorated with holographic representations of Imperial victories, while the judge's bench was carved from a single piece of Centaurian crystal. Captain Janice Voss stood at attention as Admiral Karoth read the mission summary to the assembled High Council. Cardinal Malthius sat in the prisoner's dock, his once proud bearing broken by the weight of his failure. "The traitor has been returned to Imperial custody," the Admiral concluded. "His access to classified systems has been revoked, and all compromised intelligence protocols have been updated." High Judge Meridian leaned forward in her seat, her ancient eyes fixed on Janice. "Captain Voss, describe the circumstances of the Leviathan's destruction." Janice kept her voice steady and professional. "The entity posed an existential threat to Imperial security. Its elimination was necessary to prevent catastrophic intelligence compromise. Yet intelligence reports suggest this creature was one of the galaxy's most advanced life forms. Its destruction represents an incalculable loss of knowledge and potential. With respect, Your Honor, that knowledge was being weaponized against Imperial interests. I followed established protocols for dealing with compromised intelligence assets." Judge Meridian's expression remained neutral. "The tribunal recognizes the necessity of your actions, Captain. However, the implications of this incident extend far beyond a single operation." The judge activated a holographic display showing the aftermath of the Leviathan's death. The gravitational anomaly had consumed 3 Dark World installations and scattered their fleet across several sectors. "The Dark World Coalition has lost one of its most powerful assets," she continued, "but they have also gained a rallying point for anti-imperial sentiment. The destruction of the Leviathan is being portrayed as an act of cosmic vandalism by Imperial extremists." Janice felt a chill of recognition. They had won the battle, but potentially lost a larger war for hearts and minds. The Empire's reputation as a force for order and justice had been damaged, perhaps irreparably. "What are my orders, Your Honor?" "You are hereby promoted to the rank of commander and assigned to the Imperial Intelligence Division. Your experience with unconventional threats makes you valuable for future operations of this nature." It was a reward that felt like punishment. Janice had joined the Imperial Navy to protect civilians and defend justice. Now she was being asked to become a professional killer, operating in the shadows where moral complexity replaced clear-cut heroism. But she saluted nonetheless. "Understood, Your Honor." As the tribunal concluded, Janice found herself alone with Malthius in the detention level. The former cardinal looked smaller somehow, diminished by a separation from the cosmic intelligence he had tried to merge with. "Do you ever wonder for the villains, Janice?" he asked without looking up. "Every day," she replied honestly. "But I've seen what happens when good people do nothing. The Empire isn't perfect, but it's better than the alternatives." "Is it?" "The Leviathan showed me visions of what could be. A galaxy where species work together instead of conquering each other, where intelligence was shared rather than hoarded." Malthus finally met her eyes. "We could have learned so much from it. And in the process, you would have handed the Dark World the keys to Imperial space. How many billions would have died in the resulting war? Perhaps none. The Leviathan sought synthesis, not conquest. It wanted to unite the galaxy under a single consciousness. A consciousness it controlled," Janice countered. "I've seen what Dark World unity looks like. Zirian. Individual identity erased. Free will subsumed into collective purpose. That's not evolution, it's extinction." Malthus was quiet for a long moment. "Perhaps you're right. Perhaps I was seduced by visions of transcendence that mask something darker. But in destroying the Leviathan, you've also destroyed the possibility of finding a third path. Sometimes soldiers don't get to choose the perfect solution. We choose the one that keeps our people alive." As Janice left at the tension level, she reflected on her former friend's words. The Empire was far from perfect. Its bureaucracy was often corrupt, its military sometimes heavy-handed, its policies occasionally unjust. But it represented something worth preserving. The idea that individual beings could choose their own destiny. The Dark World offered unity at the cost of identity, strength through the erasure of weakness. It was seductive in its simplicity, terrifying in its implications. Days later, Janice stood on the observation deck of her new assignment, the intelligence vessel Whisper of Truth. Through the reinforced windows, she could see the swirling nebula where the Leviathan had died. The gravitational anomaly pulsed with unnatural light, a tomb for one of the galaxy's most magnificent minds. "Second thoughts, Commander?" asked her new executive officer, Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Chun. "Always," Janice replied. "The moment I stop questioning my actions is the moment I become a monster. And yet you continue to serve. Because someone has to make the hard choices. Someone has to stand between civilization and chaos, even if it costs them their soul." Chin nodded thoughtfully. "Intelligence reports suggest the Dark World is developing new biotechnological weapons, creatures that make a Leviathan look primitive by comparison." Janice sighed, already knowing where this conversation was leading. "And the High Council wants them eliminated before they become operational. The missions are getting more complex, the enemies more sophisticated. The old rules of warfare don't apply anymore. Then we'll have to write new ones." Janice turned away from the window, her reflection ghost-like against the cosmic backdrop. "Prepare the crew for departure. We have work to do." As the Whisper of Truth entered hyperspace, Janice couldn't shake the feeling that each mission was taking her further from the idealistic officer who had once sworn to protect and serve. She was becoming something darker, more pragmatic, the kind of person the Empire needed but couldn't officially acknowledge. The price of duty was measured not in blood or treasure, but in the gradual erosion of everything that made someone human. And Janice was paying that price one mission at a time. 6 months after the Leviathan's death, Commander Janice Voss stood in the briefing room of the Whisper of Truth, studying intelligence reports that painted a disturbing picture of galactic affairs. The Dark World Coalition had not collapsed as Imperial strategists had hoped. Instead, Malthus's betrayal and the Leviathan's destruction had galvanized their forces, transforming a loose confederation of outcasts into a unified threat driven by righteous fury. The biological weapon facilities on Kepler 442b became operational yesterday, Lieutenant Colonel Chin reported. "Our long-range sensors detected the emergence of at least 30 creature ships, each one potentially as dangerous as a Leviathan. Countermeasures? Limited. The quantum virus we used before has been analyzed and countered. These new entities appear to be immune to digital warfare." Janice studied the tactical display, showing Dark World expansion across the outer rim. Red indicators marked systems that had fallen to biotechnological assault, while yellow warnings showed Imperial territories under threat. "Malthus was right about one thing," she admitted. "We've accelerated the conflict instead of ending it. The galaxy is polarizing into two camps, Imperial Order versus Dark World evolution. Perhaps that was inevitable, Dr. Elena Vance observed. She had requested transfer to the Intelligence Division after the Leviathan mission, claiming a need to study the entities they fought. The fundamental philosophical differences were always irreconcilable. Status of our prisoner? Cardinal Malthius remains in Imperial custody on Centauri Prime. He's been cooperating with intelligence debriefings, but... Chin hesitated. But what? He claims the Dark World is preparing something called the Final Synthesis, a biological weapon that would forcibly evolve every sentient being in the galaxy into a collective consciousness. The implications sent a chill through the room. If successful, such a weapon would end the war by eliminating the concept of individual identity entirely. The galaxy would become a single, vast organism directed by Dark World consciousness. Estimated timeline? Unknown, but Malthius believes they're moving quickly. The destruction of the Leviathan eliminated their most powerful asset, but also removed any restraint on their more extreme factions. Janice felt the weight of unintended consequences pressing down on her. In trying to save the Empire, she had pushed their enemies toward an even more dangerous path. New orders from Imperial Command. Came a transmission from Admiral Karoth. The High Council has authorized Operation Dark Sun, preemptive strikes against all known Dark World biological research facilities. That's going to require a significant fleet commitment, Chin observed. Not necessarily. The Emperor has approved the use of stellar-class weapons. We're going to sterilize entire star systems. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Stellar-class weapons could trigger supernovas, destroying everything within several light years of the target. It was genocide on a cosmic scale. How many inhabited systems? Dr. Vance asked quietly. Preliminary estimates suggest 43 systems containing approximately 12 billion sentient beings, the majority of whom are civilians with no connection to Dark World military operations. Janice stared at the tactical display, watching as innocent worlds were marked for destruction. There has to be another way. If there is, Imperial Command wants us to find it. We have 72 hours to identify and eliminate the Final Synthesis project before the stellar weapons are deployed. Another impossible mission with the fate of billions hanging in the balance. Janice had become skilled at such operations, but each success extracted a higher price from her humanity. What assets do we have? The Whisper of Truth and 2 escort vessels, plus whatever intelligence we can extract from Malthius. It won't be enough. We need someone who understands Dark World biotechnology from the inside. A terrible idea began forming in Janice's mind. We need to recruit a defector. Who did you have in mind? Cardinal Vex. He was present at the organic station, which means he has knowledge of current Dark World capabilities. And unlike Malthius, his conversion to their cause might not be complete. Attempting to turn a Dark World Cardinal is extremely dangerous, Jim warned. If we fail, we'll have revealed our knowledge of the Final Synthesis project. And if we don't try, 12 billion people die when Imperial Command triggers those supernovas. Janice had learned that command meant making choices between different types of failure. Sometimes you saved lives by taking them. Sometimes you preserved peace by making war. The moral calculus never got easier, but it did become more familiar. Set course to the Erebus Nebula, she ordered. We're going hunting. As the Whisper of Truth prepared for another mission into the heart of enemy territory, Janice reflected on how far she had come from the idealistic captain who had once believed in clear-cut victories. The galaxy was more complex than that, filled with shades of gray that no amount of military training could illuminate. But someone had to stand in that gray space, making impossible choices that others couldn't or wouldn't make. Someone had to be willing to sacrifice their soul to preserve the possibility that others might keep theirs. The shadow war between order and chaos would continue, fought by people like her in the spaces between light and darkness. And perhaps that was fitting. True heroes belonged in the light, while the dirty work of survival was left to those who had already fallen. The Whisper of Truth entered hyperspace, carrying its crew toward another confrontation with cosmic horror. Behind them, the Empire continued its patient expansion across the galaxy, never knowing how close it had come to annihilation. And in the deep spaces between stars, ancient intelligences watched and waited, perhaps wondering if the younger species would find wisdom before their conflicts consumed everything they had built. The cardinal's fall had been just the beginning. The real test was yet to come.